time I think I'm too old to have another baby, Allah sees fit to place another baby in my life, and it's not a burden, it's just a blessing. So I'm literally on Instacart, like ordering diapers and sheets and like things I have not done that. My youngest daughter is 13, so we've kept another niece before when she was a baby, but it's been several years. So, I think we'll get started. That was just a prelude for this. Do
you have the mic?
It's right here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, today we're joined by Brother Shaun King, who I'm sure all of us know. He's a very prominent speaker for Palestine, inshallah. And he's coming here to talk about his own personal story. So, when you take too much away, I'll hand it over, inshallah.
Okay. To be with you all, and bit of time with you this evening. Let me get this mic situated. I'm gonna hold it for a minute if you don't mind. I don't know what questions you may have, but I want to introduce myself first, and that may help because sometimes an event is advertised in a way and then it goes different. But the title of the event was Candid Conversations. So I'm hoping to speak with you, not just to you. But I do want to introduce myself and tell you some of my story and some of what I'm working on, and just a little bit about myself. In part, I almost feel obligated to do this because misinformation is so harsh and so widespread, not just about me, but about many of us, that even if you go to, I haven't looked at my Wikipedia page in years, but the last time I looked at it, it was terrible. And there was an article written about my Wikipedia page, and there are over 1,000 people that are behind the scenes constantly arguing with each other about my Wikipedia page, like people that are members of the Wikipedia community, and at least 200 of them are Zionists. And every day they make dozens of edits that get canceled or promoted on my page. And it's surreal to see people talk about you in a way that's foreign to who you are and how you operate. Every day, I see somebody call me a thief. I have never stolen from a person in my life. I've never mismanaged money. It's a complete fabrication. But it just sticks because, of course, if someone is a thief, of course they'll deny it. But I thought I had the smartest rebuttal. Stealing is illegal. Stealing from charities is illegal. Stealing from families is a crime. And I would be the first person charged and arrested if I made any of those mistakes, deliberate or not. It's never happened. And I hate to even start there, but I want to squash that in the beginning. Bless you, sister. But beyond the fact, yes, I know that Allah forgives us for our sins. I understand this. But I'm actually proud of the organizations and work that I manage, of the budgets that I manage, in part because of the public criticism of me. I've raised nearly $100 million for charities in the past 10 years or so, and never once has a dime of that ever even been in my possession. I'm sharing like GoFundMe pages. I'm sharing launch good pages that belong to other people. Last week, over 40,000 times, we counted, people said online that I voted for Donald Trump. 40,000 times. I mean, an insane number of times. And many of these were verified accounts, even some people that I've met before. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I never encouraged anyone to vote for him. But like real, sincere, not trolls, like real people were repeating it. And like, I got emails from people that I know who were saying, like, Shaun, I'm unfollowing you because of your support of Donald Trump, or I've removed my donation from your organization because of your support. And it's like misinformation is so problematic that I want to encourage all of you to get to know people and judge them for yourselves. And even me, please scrutinize me in anything that I do. I think I can withhold and withstand that. But I'm 45. I have 5 kids that we've raised and additional nieces and nephews. My oldest daughter is 25. And my wife and I were just 19. We were college students, just 19 and 20 when we got married. We weren't Muslims, so we were dating when we were 15 and 16. So we've been together now for, next year will be 30 years that I've been with her since we were kids. And she is smarter, cuter. She is better at me, better than me at almost everything. And I am so delighted to see her as a devout Muslim. Many of you may not know, I grew up in rural Kentucky in the South, and first started considering becoming a Muslim and embracing Islam when I was just 15 years old. I'd read the autobiography of Malcolm X. This was in 1994 when I first read it. And if you know anything about my story, in 1995, I was brutally assaulted, and it changed the entire trajectory of my life. That assault was meant to destroy me, and in a lot of ways, it shaped me and made me who I am. What happened to me was unjust. I missed my entire sophomore and junior year of high school recovering from the injuries. At the time, like this happened March of 1995 when I was assaulted. It was on the local news. I had 3 spinal surgeries and fractures to my face, and these were just racist white students who did this, and no one was ever held accountable. And before that happened to me, I've seen my life in a lot of ways as before that moment and after that moment, and now I even see my life as before embracing Islam and after embracing Islam as well. Like I see my life as kind of several before and after moments. But before I was assaulted, I was a good kid. It wasn't that I didn't care about injustice, but I didn't plan on being a civil rights leader. It wasn't that I didn't care about human rights, but I didn't plan on making it my life. After I was assaulted, it shaped me and changed the entire trajectory of my life, and caused me to care deeply about injustice. It caused me to care about people who are mistreated. It certainly caused me to have a deep problem with bullies. It doesn't matter if it's an individual bully or a brutal police officer or a nation that's a bully nation. It's burned into me. About 2 weeks after this coming Ramadan, I have to have another spinal surgery. And so this is a part of my life. And I don't say it for sympathy, but just to understand, I'm in pain right now. And I used to ask God. I was a pastor for many years. I was a pastor for almost 15 years. I went to a Christian seminary, and I was a senior pastor, like a lead pastor of a church in Atlanta. And I remember many years, particularly when I was younger, I would pray to God and ask God to take the pain away or to heal me. And no matter how many times I prayed this prayer, it never left. And I started asking, like, this is me thinking back of myself as a Christian. So if you hear me use Christian language, I'm thinking back in retrospect. I would ask God, I would just say, like, God, why are you not taking this away? And eventually I started wondering, like, is there something God is trying to teach me through this pain? And I've gotten to the point now where that was literally 30 years ago when this assault happened to me, where I believe I'm completely healed from the emotional trauma of it. but not healing from the physical trauma of it, I think has done 2 or 3 things, and I'm grateful to Allah for it. It's caused me to this day to just have a deep sensitivity, almost an obsession over people who are hurting, physically, emotionally. I've spent my entire life trying to help people who are hurting, in part because I know what it feels like to be hurting physically, to be abandoned, to be mistreated, to not get justice. It's also caused me to stay home. I wonder if I didn't have this pain, like I have to rest. Like after I finish tonight, I have to go back to my room. I had no idea how late Muslims stay out. Non-Muslims think that Muslims don't even have fun. Like this is, I remember, you know, I embraced Islam. I had been speaking with Sheikh Omar Suleiman, has been a dear friend of mine for almost 12 years now. And he and I had been talking for months before I embraced Islam about me making the decision. But, you know, my wife and I took Shahada the first day of Ramadan last year. And like 3 days later, I was speaking at masjids. And I was in Toronto, at ISNA in Toronto. And they asked me to speak there. And they asked me to speak, and it was 1 a.m. And I remember thinking, hold on. Why are Muslims meeting at 1 a.m. in the morning? And it's a beautiful masjid. It's one of the largest masjids in North America. Beautiful people. And it was me and a young African Muslim scholar named Mustafa Briggs, and we did this event together. And it was almost 2,000 young people at 1 a.m. And we were all so happy to see each other. And then 2 days later, I went to Edmonton, Canada, and they had me speak at one of the oldest masjids in North America, started in almost 1900, by a woman, a Lebanese woman. And they literally had me speak at like 3:30 in the morning. And it was literally like, I think like 10 below zero. The masjid was completely full. And people, and as you've probably seen this week, people were praying outside. And it was 10 or 15 below zero. And all of us were happy. And when we got in the car after I spoke and after we prayed, and I told the brothers who were with me, non-Muslims have no idea what the daily life of a Muslim looks like. And they certainly have no idea what, like the joy that we have, not just during Ramadan, but during Ramadan. They have no idea. And what scares me about that is my entire adult life, I have worked, lived in close proximity to Muslims. I've spoken, before I became a Muslim, I've spoken at almost every Muslim conference, Palestine. And I had no idea what being a Muslim actually meant. I taught, listen, this should scare you. I taught a college course on Islam. And what I learned, and it's scary and beautiful, what I learned in my first week as a Muslim is, yes, you can study it, and you should, but this was designed to be lived. It was designed to be practiced, and it was designed to be done in community. Like, I remember how maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was proud. I remember texting Sheikh Omar and telling him, like, hey, I'm going to fast with you during Ramadan. And I did it just to be in solidarity with him. And that's all it was for me. It was just like me not eating food. It wasn't Ramadan. Like I didn't understand it. It had no depth. It was a friend having solidarity with a friend, and that's beautiful. My first week as a Muslim meant more to me than the previous 30 years I had walking and living in close proximity to Muslims. I remember a brother who had just texted me named Nader, a Palestinian brother from Canada. And for my first few weeks, I've had more help than I deserve. Like first, I also did not know how much Muslims love WhatsApp. Like Meta has mistreated me, and so I feel two ways about this. I'm in so many WhatsApp groups. It's a problem. I'm in groups I'm in multiple groups, and it's just the same people. And then you can accidentally say something in one group that there was two people in that group that aren't in another. I don't know. I'm not good at this, but like half of the Islamic scholars in North America, I think, are advising me and coaching me and teaching me. And so I've gotten way more support than the average new Muslim. But for my first almost month, there were brothers that would travel with me to help teach me things. And I went to Dallas, took Shahada, and my wife and I got home the next day, and we had people had given us like prayer mats, and I did not. This is new. Brothers gave me cologne, and men have never given me cologne before. It's beautiful because I come from a culture where men are afraid to be outwardly affectionate and loving with other men. I come from a culture and a background where it would be weird for a man, for almost no reason, to give another man a gift. And it's beautiful because in Islam, we don't think about this. We hug, we laugh, we cry, we support each other. And so I remember during Ramadan, we were in our rows, and it was after Taraweeh, and I had never seen these, I think men and women have them, these little bottles of cologne that have like a little roller on the end. I've never seen one like this. And I'm sitting down in the prayer line, and a man just comes up and like rubs one on my arm. And my arm, I have like a big wet streak on my arm. And I asked the brother next to me, who I didn't even know, I was like, oh, what just happened here? Why did he just put this on my arm? And he said, it's cologne. And I was like, okay, why did he just put cologne on my arm in the masjid? I don't understand this. Like, these are the little nuanced things that you have no idea about. And my friend Nader, we had only been Muslims for a few days. He said, Shaun, when you're praying, I'm noticing two things that you're doing. He said, when you stand up, I notice you're always looking around. And I had been taught, even like for my own security, to always just be constantly aware of what's so. When we would stand up during prayer, I'm just constantly scanning. He said, no, you should not do this. I said, okay. And he said, but there's something else. And he said, well, there were two more things. He said, I notice when you go down to pray, you're putting your whole arm on the ground. And he said, he said, you just put your hands there. And I said, okay. But then there was something else that I wasn't doing, and I think I actually knew I was supposed to be doing it, but it was hard for me. He said, Shaun, when we go all the way down, he said, I notice that your face almost touches the ground. And he said, I promise you, it's way harder to keep your face like lifted up an inch off the ground the way you're doing. And he said, why are you doing this? And I told him, I said, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not touching my face on the ground. And as I thought about it, I realized that there was a part of me, just a superhuman part of me, that did not want to put my face on the ground. You've done this. I mean, we pray at least 35 times a week, and sometimes more. And in each prayer, we do this multiple. I mean, you have put your face fully on the ground thousands of times. I have spent the past 45 years making sure that my face is never on the ground. Like, if my face is on the ground, it normally means someone's done something to me. And the next prayer we prayed a few hours later, I remember when I don't think I had ever voluntarily touched my nose and my forehead to the ground in life. And I remember feeling so humbled by it and then I realized in that moment that I really, when I was praying, I was doing the movements, but I still was not fully submitting my heart and my mind, my body to Allah. And now, every single time I pray, when my nose and my forehead touch the ground, there's something about that that humbles me. It like humbles my soul. And being a Muslim for this, just a little more than a year, it's been beautiful. I've noticed a lot of new Muslims that struggle, and there may be some new Muslims in the room, and I understand the only reason my wife and I haven't struggled is all the support we've gotten. And I mean, from our local masjid to scholars to friends, I deeply, deeply encourage all of you, do not let new Muslims try to figure this out on their own. It's even dangerous. There was a really, really well-known trans woman who reached out to my wife, and I understand this is controversial and doubly so in Texas and in America, who reached out to my wife, one of the most famous trans people in America, and said that she had taken Shahada. And she wanted to know, she knew me, and said she followed my wife because she used to follow me when I was on Instagram. And she asked my wife if she could go to the masjid with her. And we spoke to our imam, and just to say, like, what's going to happen if this person comes to the masjid? And she's already told us, it shocked us. She said she was wearing hijab. She said she was eating halal. And then she texted with my wife, and she said that she had made the decision to not support hadith, but she was only going to believe in the Quran. Okay, just be patient with her. And this is what happens when an individual human being who feels like they have no one they can trust decides to Google and YouTube their way through the faith. It's dangerous. So she genuinely thought that being a Quran-only Muslim, she thought that was like an act of devotion. Not even understanding what, the history of a hadith and where they come from. When you're not in community, these are the decisions you come to. And my wife and I, because our community is mainly non-Muslims, like our friend network is mainly non-Muslims, we see this all the time. And we see non-Muslims come to the masjid and take their shahada, and then we never see them again. And it's not Islam, it tends to be cultural, where it can be hard for somebody who has, I'll even say, use an example of an African American and a white American. An African American may be used to being in spaces where their culture is the primary culture, and then when you step into a place where after every iftar there's biryani and you've never had biryani, it's like food is cultural. Language is cultural, and you look around and you see no one who looks like you, who maybe understands you. Sometimes culture can be so strong, you just feel like, I don't think I belong here. Not because of the Islam, but it's like, culturally, this must not be a place for me. It's extremely hard for white people who have primarily been in places of privilege to then go into any space, not just an Islamic space, where they are no longer the dominant culture in the room or in the conversations where they don't set the agenda. And so when you see, I'm not saying a white man becomes a Muslim, we give him a standing ovation. I'm saying it can be a difficult thing for anyone to have to fight through all of the cultural challenges that are new. And please wrap your arms around new Muslims and support them the best that you can, or they will leave. And we see it all the time. I was a journalist full-time for many, many years. I've written, I used to, when I first started as a journalist, they work you like crazy. I used to have to write 3 and 4 articles a day, and they were not good. I mean, how good can an article be when you have to write 3 or 4 articles a day? And that's how I got good at writing captions on Instagram, because I used to have to write articles that much as well. And I worked for the New York Daily News. I worked for a place called The Intercept. I worked at Harvard Law School for a while for a journalism program they had there. And I always, as a journalist, I always blurred the lines between journalism and activism, and it always got me in trouble. Because generally, a journalist, even if they're an opinion columnist, you either write or you advocate, but you don't write an article and advocate for the people you're writing about. And I'm grateful that I was always allowed to do both. But the only reason I was ever a journalist was because I thought it might help my activism. I'm an activist at heart. I want to see social change. I want to see those who promote injustice held accountable. And that's what's drawn me and many, many African American leaders my age and younger. It's what drew us for generations to Palestine. We saw 2 or 3 things. We saw our heroes. Malcolm X actually went to Gaza, I mean, literally. Nelson Mandela went to Ramallah, throughout the West Bank, and went to Gaza. There are videos of this. We saw even Huey Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, went to Gaza. Like our leaders in the black community always cared. And I'll make 2 final points, and then I'll take your questions. Who teaches you and what they teach you will shape you more than almost anything else. And now, as I look back over my life as a new Muslim, I see the beautiful ways that before I even knew it, Allah was placing good teachers in my life at almost every step of my life. I grew up in a small town in rural Kentucky. I never met a Muslim until I first visited a masjid when I was in high school. I had never heard of Palestine. I couldn't point to it on a map. I knew nothing about it until I got to college. And the blessing in both of those stories is I traveled to South Africa in 2001 for a conference called the United Nations Conference Against Racism. And there were almost 1 million college students there from all over the world. And at that time, I was student government president at Morehouse College, and I was one of the most known student leaders in the world. And we were shocked because everywhere we went, all over South Africa, the most popular people were Palestinians. And we were so confused by it. We were like, who are these people, and why do South Africans love them so much? We had never seen a kafiyeh before. We didn't understand that for generations, South Africans and Palestinians had been fighting for each other. And I'm thankful to Allah that I did not learn about Palestinians from CNN, from the news, from goofy movies or television shows that say they're about terrorism but are really about Islamophobia. But I learned about Palestinians first from South Africans. Who teaches you something shapes you. I first learned about Islam not from Islamophobic movies, but from Malcolm X. And who reaches you first also has a huge impact on how you see things. And my first supervisor when I graduated college was a local imam named Nadim Ali. And for 3 years, we worked in jails and prisons full